On this episode of the podcast, I have with me Nir Caldero. He is the Chief Data and AI Officer at Neoris. We're going to be talking about AI adoption from a leadership perspective. We're going to be talking about prioritizing business drivers, pilot programs, measuring these pilot programs so we know, do we invest more, do we invest less? We're going to try to get through as much as we can, some examples. Nir, thanks for being on the show.
Of course, Amir, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure being here.
Absolutely. All right, tell us all what the company does at a high level so we're all aware before we dive on in.
And Neoris is a digital accelerator. We're helping large enterprises basically either start their AI revolution or those companies that already started, helping them, get to the reaping reward from AI in their specific AI evolution journey. So really helping them implement AI technology into their core processes so they can actually grow and seize the opportunities from that.
Awesome. I mean, I'm sure you've got a lot of experience to draw on in your years of industry on our topic of AI adoption from a leadership perspective. Let's start at the top, right? So, and I've asked this question before, and I like this question. AI is on the radar for everyone. Everyone views it as an opportunity. Some people view it as a cost savings, potentially. Some are viewing it as a growth and efficiency opportunity. When you're seeing AI and you're looking at this from a leadership perspective and you're trying to think of where does AI help an average company? Is it a combination of cost savings and growth? Should people be looking at one or the other? How do you view that side of the coin?
I think it's really a combination. And I think that we need to acknowledge the fact that we are living in an era of wealth of data, and our brain cannot anymore process this vast amount of data that is surrounding us on a daily basis. And we need to make really smart business decisions. We can even talk about the enterprises. We need to make smart decisions in our life to get the world to a better place, to improve our quality of life, work-life balance. And with this vast amount of data that we have around us, our brain is basically failing processing all of that in a very egalitarian, fair way without the biases that obviously marketing is trying to sway us from one side to another. And as I call AI, I call it as a brain helper. Is a brain helper to help us in an era of wealth of data and very limited capacity in our brain to get attention correctly and in a fair way for everything that is around us to help us make smarter decisions. So, I think that some part of it, as we look at the enterprise, will be the brain helper that will help the human to excel, right, and to grow and perfect their tasks. And some part of it will be, taking from the human the things that we do not want to do today, right, like the daunting task, the repetitive task, the process excellence type of task, and let the machine do this, boring things, while the human will have to be pushed towards, figuring out how to be, better subject matter expert in what I do, and do the things that is very hard or complex for the machine to really replicate the job or the work of the human. And again, this machine intelligence era, this AI, what we call AI, will push us to really amplify and create our abilities, towards like higher level of solving business tasks, which right now we are doing better than the machine.
Absolutely. I love that view of living in an era of wealth of data. I think it's interesting. I mentioned this a long time ago to people, and I said, if you watch how the speed of music has increased over the last thousands of years of however music has evolved, you'll notice that music is getting faster to tempo, which reflects to what you're saying. We're processing data faster. We're getting better at that. When you're looking at enterprises, they want to take advantage of this. They want to put their companies in an opportunity of growth or penny saved is a penny earned situation. When you're looking at a company and they're looking at where to start, because I think that actually is maybe more key. A lot of people are starting pilots. They might succeed. They might fail. You have to maybe pick the right type of low-hanging fruit, quote unquote. How do you prioritize the business driver to go, you know what? This is where I start for my company to kind of experiment, test, whatnot with AI.
I think it's a critical point to emphasize the prioritization and to talk about how to start either this revolution or continue the evolution. And I believe that, we need to also get to the point of understanding that AI is science and is all about experimentation. And in the in the project life cycle of AI, or the innovation life cycle of AI, not everything from ideation will get all the way to deployment, and it's okay. But what are the specific things that you can do today to ensure that you can take a great idea all the way to pilot and deployment and scale, and to realize the value behind the investment, and generate the use case expectation, is really through great prioritization, which is, I think, one of the pillars. And I have a methodology that I call speed to value. And really, the speed to value is all about thinking about, the sponsorship. And I will tell you the four elements, and then I will explain. One of them is the sponsorship. The second one is the ROI. The third one is the business readiness to adopt the technology. And the fourth one is the technical feasibility. And if I can explain it in a second, I believe that the sponsorship is key, and mainly top-down sponsorship. This everything around the AI initiative is a top-down initiative, because you know we can build great models, but eventually we need people to adopt them. We need to do the change management that is vital for adoption of the technology, for its actually use. At the very end of the day, we're talking about, I always say, like, we can build great models, but people are the one that change the world. So if we really want to change the world through this technology, we need to make sure that people are eventually adopting into their day-to-day routine. So sponsorship is key, because change management is top down. And if you want to rally and convince your people to use the technology, you need a sponsorship. The second thing, the sponsorship is important because, business is changing. You started with one sponsor 5 months ago. This one sponsor moved to a different country, a different business unit. And if you don't have a strong anchor and sponsor that can help you from the top, that can, if there are changes happening in the business, can hold your hand to the finish line to deploy the technology, typically the project can stop. And, you made an investment, and all the expectations and, potential realization of the benefits just vanish. So sponsorship is key in this top-down initiative. The other one is obviously the ROI. And, going through the transformation in technology, specifically in AI, is, some people, as you mentioned, are afraid from that. What's going to happen to my job? Some people will have to completely change the way that they have been doing for 25 years. We have examples of people that have been doing specific things every day for 25 years, and they believe that this is the best way to do it, and all of a sudden we bring technology and data, and they show us other ways to do it. So we need to make sure that, and people can really adopt the technology. And I believe that the ROI is critical point. We need to make sure that we start from projects and the transformation, big projects that can show people the light at the end of the tunnel. Because if we start bothering people and changing their life and doing a lot of changes in small things that eventually shows a little bit of like improvements in their quality of life, in their quality of work, in the work-life balance, the way that they have been doing some stuff, they will say, okay, you have been driving me crazy doing all of these changes, and then for like this little amount of improvement, so it's not worth it. So you have to start with something big on the ROI. The third element is really the business readiness, and I think many enterprises forget about this point, that eventually we need to build technology that the business is receptive and will be able to use. And I think that this is a very important element of the prioritization. What we build must be well received, and the business should be ready to basically accumulate and integrate the technology. And the last one is obviously the easiest part, maybe is the technical feasibility. We want to make sure that we have the data, we have the capabilities, we have the knowledge, we have the technology environment and the infrastructure to deploy AI. But in my opinion and my experience, if you really think about those four elements, sponsorship, ROI, business readiness, technical feasibility, and you really prioritize the initiatives that are coming to you, or that you believe that you want to create, you have a higher chance to move an idea all the way to deployment scale and actually realize the value. And unfortunately, not so many businesses are, specifically the large one, are really doing it. I think they're practicing it better. But thinking about those four elements, I believe, is critical for adoption of the technology.
I mean, that's a great explanation. I love it. It's very concrete. The four steps, the four pillars there. It's very. I could see the flow. Obviously, sponsorship is one thing, and we can maybe talk about that. I guess the middle two, ROI and business readiness, right? So you do see sponsorship. Maybe consistent sponsorship is what we say we're missing, and I could see that as well. But you see that other people in teams, they are looking at the technology, they are open to it, they want to advance capabilities of the company. When you get to the middle two of ROI and business readiness, and specifically ROI, AI itself might affect the way we've evaluated ROI, right? Before, you could actually maybe look at something and see, I saved X by doing Y, and you go, okay, this is making me money. With AI, and one time we talk about productivity, potential growth, or cost savings, that might not be as easy. We're being potentially in a position where we have to evaluate what productivity means and the value to the company. Do you see that piece? Actually, before we get into that, what do you see? I mean, you used ROI as that second speed to value. ROI. Are companies establishing the right ways to evaluate these AI pilots?
I think they're getting better. Obviously, ROI, as you mentioned, is some sort of like back of the envelope type of calculation, because eventually what really drives the ROI is the change management, the adoption of AI with people into their day-to-day processes. So we can argue whatever ROI we want, and typically the way that is happening, and I call this like dueling that I do between my team and the business, is that the business, submit what is the potential, use case and the ROI from their perspective, as they are the subject matter expert, and we are validating this ROI and go to some sort of, again, of dueling with them when we actually look at some assumptions over the data that we have. And eventually we get to a point of agreement, right? Because it's important to really not just, agree on the ROI for the prioritization, but really, if we really want to ensure that the project will get to the finish line, maybe put this potential ROI in the P&L of the business owner. So they know that they have this layer that they have to help us push in order to adopt the technology eventually with their respective people. So it's not just for the prioritization, it's also a mechanism to lock in the sponsorship and to ensure that we have, as you mentioned, continuous sponsorship across the entire life cycle of the project.
Well, I'm going to ask you two questions to follow up. One, I like how you said to lock in the sponsorship, because as we see with a lot of technology projects, there's a lot of excitement. There's probably a phase in life cycle to this. There's excitement. People want to get behind it. They invest in it. They don't see the results as quickly. And then they realize, well, the costs are going to be more significant than thought. People tend to deprioritize, and that initiative is, let's just go ahead and let's go ahead and shelve it. It's not worth what we thought to the company. With AI, and we've seen this with other things, right? Like, I mean, right now we're talking, we could mention business readiness. You see companies that still struggle with reporting. There are companies out there that still don't have a great reporting product to their enterprise. When you look at, I guess, AI, and you look at the two combination of, one, you need to have that stickiness long enough, because some of these things will fail. As you mentioned, data science is science, trial and error. And then you also need to look at whether the business has that commitment and whether or not they've learned from those previous failings. How does that combination kind of fit within those first two, sponsorship and ROI? Because I think even with the cloud, we see companies that are just still coming up to speed. I mean, they're a little bit lagger in terms of adoption, which we always see, but this is a little bit different AI, because I don't know if you're going to get the same reaction of, hey, I'm going to take time to get onto the cloud without AI. I mean, you might see your competitors just leapfrog you in terms of capabilities.
Yes, I think that, there's no time to wait beyond the prioritization, and relates to the first two that I mentioned. I mean, just to give you some examples, even today with generative AI, and it's incredible to me, companies, and again, still chief AI officers, chief information officers, chief technology officers are making a lot of mistakes. and some simple ones. And I want to highlight some of you. Maybe this is going to be a channel to educate also some others. And just to give you an idea, and again, it starts from the sponsorship. It really starts from the top. Think about it. I work with a lot of large, very smart enterprises that build, now the conversation. I mean, the impact of generative AI on customer experience and customer service is enormous, just simply because there is a lot of language data in those areas, specifically in those call recording systems that we can train great LLMs. But I see a lot of companies basically, building chatbots just for the chat, just being a chatbot, just as a Q&A system. And I think that the impact of, and again, example of the ROI, and the impact of building a chatbot or moving a chatbot from the traditional way to, generative AI and using LLM, just to answer Q&A questions, there's not much value in it. Okay? At least dollars, yes, there is an impact on customer experience, but dollars is not that high. Rather than taking it to the really finish line and where the real big money is with automation of processes. So you can do the Q&A with customers, but when you actually automate a business process that has been done, let's say by human, okay, the cost saving is actually in this last mile. Okay. So it seems very sexy. Yes, I'm going to build a chatbot Q&A with generative AI, with LLM. Okay, great. But actually, if you think about it, the real value to the enterprise is in the last mile where you actually try to do some automation. I'll give you another example. Generative AI is also making a lot of impact on analytics. I believe that we are moving right now from from the traditional decision making process to what I call decision making 2.0, where basically insights are coming to the users rather than the user have to look for insights in thousands of dashboards that enterprises have, and also the ability to converse with the data to get insights in real time and on the spot. That's what I call decision making 2.0. And it's incredible to me that many enterprises are building those conversational chatbots as a standalone product and are not embedding those capabilities into the current dashboards and products that people are using already on a daily basis. So just imagine the amount of change management that you need to do and the convincing to really get to high adoption, building a separate product versus embedding those generative AI capabilities in current dashboard and current products that people are using on a daily basis. And if you think about it, this stupid mistake, okay, in a way, is really cannibalizing the impact of generative AI in enterprises today. So you have to think about the sponsorship, you have to think about the ROI, but you have to think very smartly about the change management and the adoption and of where you put the technology and how you embed it and how you use it. The first example is like you use, let's say, 50% of the capabilities of the Q&A, but will the other 50% is in automation. Try to get it there to get the right ROI. And in the second example that I gave you is really all about the business readiness and the change management. Put those capabilities, embed them into current processes and current products that us, the human employees, are already ready, already used to interact with in order to actually generate the impact versus create new data products that you will have hard time to convince people to look at them. It's a separate process. So those small things, companies make still a lot of mistakes. Another one, very simple. People think, specifically us, data scientists, machine learning, we think everything is sexy that is new. We had the wave of the deep learning, and now we have the wave of the LLM. And not by surprise, we want to do that because these are cutting edge stuff that, we love to learn. This is a science experimentation type of field. And typically the people that excel in these fields are people with a lot of curiosity and ability to learn. And not all the time to deploy LLM is the right strategy to get the best results. Sometimes actually doing some stuff on the traditional machine learning or AI plus the LLM is much better results than just deploying LLM. So just doing the sexy stuff, not necessarily all the time drive the value, okay, or is the right methodology. So you have to really there is a lot of things that currently happening in the industry specifically. I think that in the past 6 to 8 months, companies invested a lot in generative AI capabilities. Obviously, the top have been making a lot of noises and pushing a lot of people to do some stuff in generative AI. But because of these small mistakes, we have hard time. I mean, companies have hard time to really showcase the value behind generative AI. And it's incredible to me. Part of it is a prioritization that they didn't do correctly. Part of it is that many people at the top, specifically in technology today, were actually born from IT and not from a science-based, experimentation-based type of field like machine learning. So they're making more of those mistakes now. And I think that, it's in a way, there's a learning curve, right? Even for us in technology, but we need to close the gap because right now we are like kind of like, uh, how will I say it? Like, we're reducing the potential impact that this technology, specifically generative AI, can make on the world. We don't want it to be just a hype.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess just a follow up to that, the hype. So I guess it's got to be hard if you're a business leader and you're seeing the conversation, the narrative. You see people come in, they're working with ChatGPT. They have maybe they start imagining solutions. If you're non-technical and you use ChatGPT, which is very common, you're doing it to help you do some stuff. You see this immediate result. It's a little bit, to me, it's a little bit like using the internet just to surf the web. Like this, we're back to the original, infancy of the web because there's a lot more power to it. But the expectation for the user might be that, hey, I can get this immediate impact by just opening this website, typing a question, and boom, here's an answer. You want me to, as you said, adoption. I have these reports. You want me to go look at another set of analytics reports that I'm going to interact with differently, that adoption piece, and I have to give up what I'm used to. When we're looking at that transition and helping people get more comfortable with the notion of what AI or Gen AI will be in the enterprise, because I think even the enterprise has gone through this with basic websites when at some point everyone wanted to mirror a Facebook or a social media app because they thought we need to look more consumer. I mean, a lot of the enterprise companies tried to become more consumer oriented. It didn't work. But when you think about that component, do you see that as an obstacle as people are more comfortable with ChatGPT and they have to now adjust to what AI will look like inside the enterprise?
I think that part of that what we do in the enterprise is somehow similar to the experience that we have in the chat gpt. For example, the conversational way with the data is either in a predefined questions or your ability to really ask questions, which again, I don't believe the world is really fully ready for enterprises, for people to ask whatever questions they have and to fully rely on that. I mean, we need to do a lot of prompt engineering. We need to build a semantic layer. The world is not ready for that. But for the smart insights coming to the user and the predefined questions, set of 5 to 15 questions per business line or business unit, this we can actually do great prompt engineering and we can fix the backend data specifically in the semantic layer and alike. The experience is similar, but I mean, now AI is in the hands of everyone, which is probably the biggest potential we have in this field, but also some of the biggest challenges we have, because we really need to think carefully about biases, sending the wrong message or predicting the wrong answer, trying to figure out how to think about responsible AI, trying to figure out what we do with those roles that I will not say eliminated, but will be repurposed, right? I think there's a lot of things that can happen there that we need to pay attention, but the experience is going to be probably somehow similar. People want to converse, okay? People want either to chat. When I say converse, it can be either like actually write or actually using voice. The experience in WhatsApp, for example, over voice, we see a lot of our customers are telling us, okay, it's very nice that you put this, generative AI conversational chatbots, but actually let's use language and let's use voice to actually interact with the engine, which I think is interesting. So we are taking kind of like the experience from ChatGPT plus some experience from other platform using voice with different languages and trying kind of like to marinate it. I think the user eventually, if we put AI and those type of engines and capabilities into products, that they're already using, like again, like a dashboard that you will open every day to look at the number of sales, right? And really embedded into those areas that they have already experienced, that you don't really need to disrupt much their day to day, then adoption is going to be easier. And again, the experience is going to be similar to what they do in ChatGPT or using voice in WhatsApp or using, Meta or Instagram in one way or another.
If you were to have, I guess, as you're seeing the industry, you've mentioned where some mistakes have been made, some areas of opportunity. If you're an enterprise and you're trying to evaluate your best areas of opportunity, what are some of the signs to go, well, this is a prime candidate where we should potentially start investing in AI?
I think you need to firstly look at your business strategy before you even look at technology, and to really try to understand what are the top three business objectives overall coming from the CEO, and trying to figure out how to accelerate those specific objectives with strategy that has a big pillar of technology. So if it's your operation or customer experience or commercial front, there is a lot of technology goes into these buckets. And typically, again, organizations have a top-down strategy, right? So if you align really, really to the top, everyone below is expected to follow this strategy. So you are probably going to pick up a project that has a high speed to value ranking, right? That is aligned to the top organization strategy. And then, whoever is the sponsor, probably this will also be a compelling event for them. So I would say, like, really start from the business, really try to understand the top business strategy that is typically cascading down, and try to pick a project there that could really resonate from the senior manager all the way to the CEO and to the board. And these are type of the projects that typically, have higher likelihood to get to the finish line, and typically have also high impact on the organization. So I would say actually start from the business, start from those top down strategies. I always say, like, it's not that easy, but building technology is easier than changing people's mind, right? And changing the business. So if you are already aligned with the business and to people's expectations, their routines, and then you build technology, is typically easier than doing it vice versa.
I guess here when I hear that, I kind of think about technologists when they hear the business problem need to understand the business prioritization. Don't come in with those preconceived notions that this solution I can make it work, because I think we've seen that in the past. We see that, and I guess as you mentioned, I'm sure everyone that's within the field would love to tinker and play more with and enjoy the challenges that come with this, but that also might not be the best solution. You mentioned simple machine learning could suffice. It doesn't have to be Gen AI. I guess as a technologist, maybe this is my final question to you. As a technologist, you'd love to work with technology. How do you focus back on the business, make sure that you don't jump too far ahead? Because obviously, technologists like playing with technology.
Also us. So
Yeah, there you go.
it's also a personal challenge,
Yeah.
But if we really want to make this world a better place through this incredible technology, and we really want to make an impact, we really need to fully acknowledge the fact that we really need to start from the business. I said many really, because I really mean it. But we have to start from the business if we really want to make an impact. I believe that we can play with a lot of cool things and great technology. And obviously the field is changing so fast. I mean, the amount of sleep that we get just because of we need to keep up to date before we're going to sleep every day, and with latest news and technology, is something incredible, which is fascinating. And myself including like to play with the new technology, but the impact is coming when you actually touch a nerve in the business that brings value. And it has to come from strategy, and it has to come from really staying tuned to top-down business problems. I work with many enterprises that many capable people started the transformation from the bottom up, specifically in AI, and I can say they failed. And they failed not because they didn't build great models and use cutting edge technology. They failed mainly because they didn't have the sponsorship for the change management to adopt technology, and they were not aligned to top business problems. So eventually there was no one that can actually hold their hand and, move, from technology and IT towards the business and towards talking to people and convincing people and showing them that there is something else. We need leadership. I mean, in AI, again, AI is a top-down initiative. If you don't have the top to help you specifically from the business, it's very hard in the life cycle, the innovation life cycle of AI, to take a project from ideation all the way to scale and to the finish line. So yes, we want to play with a lot of sexy new things, but eventually we need to really stay focused on where we can make a real impact on our enterprise, on the community, on the world, and to great focus on where the business really needs help and what we can accelerate.
Awesome, Nir. I really love your viewpoints and love your appreciate your time on the show. I think you've given some great advice and pointers to everyone. If someone does want to reach out to you because they might have an additional question or want to follow up with you, what's a good way of touching base with you?
Can send me a LinkedIn message or request. Someone wants advice, can reach out to Neoris or to Intro platform. I'm out there in social media, so getting my attention, maybe it's going to be hard, but I will do my best.
Well, we'll make sure we put some links in there to your LinkedIn, to the company website, and if anyone has questions, obviously they can direct them towards you. But I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Amir. It's a great pleasure.
Absolutely. That's it for the episode. Be back again, different guest, different topic. Until then, two things. One, I thought Nir covered a lot of things. I think his speed to value framework was phenomenal. He explained it very thoroughly. Please share this episode with somebody else that might benefit. I think a lot of people are still in the midst of trying to figure out strategy. So I think we need to focus on that. And Nir had some great pointers and tips. So please share the episode. Also like, subscribe, comment. Let me know how the podcast is doing. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.